How's it going, guys, and welcome to the Minute channel. Today we're going to be talking about Persona 5 Strikers and one of my other interesting characters that I had kind of like really wanted to talk about for some times, but obviously to avoid spoilers and everything, I just kind of been delaying this video as much as possible. So needless to say, this video will contain spoilers. So let's go ahead and jump right into the video, and we're going to talk about Akira Konoe. So Akira Konoe is one of the more interesting characters, as I mentioned before, because of a lot of different reasons. He is a different kind of villain and a different kind of antagonist from the ones that we had in other Persona games. However, he also reminds me of other antagonists from Persona 5 Royal, particularly as far as like the tragic story and the way that they have the same similar powers to the main protagonist, and how they go about doing things differently from the Phantom Thieves. So all of this is just interesting stuff, but let's go ahead and just kind of dissect all different stuff and everything. So Akira Konoe is presented as this CEO of this massive corporation who developed or own this AI that not only can they do really crazy stuff, but they also can do really insane stuff when it comes to the metaverse and building all these palaces or these jails and all this stuff that happened in the background and everything. So overall, I just think it's really interesting, the kind of maybe between what happened in his past and how he chose to do things. For example, he had a really tragic past. He was abused as a child physically, and you can see how that impacted him a lot. In fact, his father is a really terrible person who murdered his mother, and like he hinted about all these terrible things that he done. And Akira, just having done deal with all that stuff, he went and actually killed his own father. And that's actually where things kind of turn into a really grim kind of situation. I actually didn't expected this kind of twist. I expected him to just be a kind of a dirtbag CEO, you know, the average kind of person. I know there's a meme about like him being like Tony Stark or whatever, but in reality, like, his character is a little bit more complex than that, because it does show there's a lot of stuff in the background that is not just as cut as dry as saying this is a good or bad kind of situation. Sure, he did really terrible stuff, but the reason behind it, I don't think it's necessarily bad, but at the same time it's something that I don't particularly agree with. Well, that's why I feel so conflicted. The more I actually took a long time to actually talk about this, because I really wanted to get this right. I kind of wanted to put my thoughts about it, but also wanted to kind of not necessarily say he's necessarily a villain as much as he's an antagonist. However, some of the things that he does later on in the game is still pretty unforgivable. He does manipulate other people to doing crazy stuff, and in the end, he does even tried to kill some people as well. So and those kind of stuff, it does make you feel like I'm very conflicted about the way the character acts and does some things. And obviously at the end of the day, he himself was also manipulated by the AI to do some stuff. So it's really hard to kind of dissect and see how much of the stuff that he's done is actually stuff that he decided to do versus how much of it is actually from the AI and what the AI was trying to do. It's just really hard to kind of dissect both of these parts and kind of say, well, this is this character's fault and this is this other person's fault, because at the end of the day, it's just really hard to see what both of these characters were trying to do, which parts of these characters did what, and it just makes me kind of almost feel uncomfortable in a sense, because it's really, again, kind of really hard to separate the good things and the bad things, and it makes you kind of look at all this stuff and say, well, I really like this character, or I didn't really like this character. When I rated this character, I did rate this character pretty low. I think I gave him a D, and I talked to him and I explained my reasoning then, but in reality I don't really like his character, and when I do my rankings, it's based on my personal preference, not based on whether I feel a character was really well written or not. A character can be well written and you still don't have to like him, you know. For example, Akechi is a really good example of this. I think he's Akechi in Persona 5 Royal was a really great written character. They had a lot of layers to the character and a lot of things just that really work well with the protagonist. However, I still never really like him. I still feel like he's not a really good character myself, and I don't really like his choices or he does or anything like that. I still think he's a good character. He was really well written, but I particularly don't like him. Neither do I agree with the stuff that he does or says, which again, at the end of the day, it's kind of like a preference kind of thing. I feel the same way about Akira, which is different from how I felt about the antagonist from Persona 5 Royal, because he does have a lot of the same qualities. However, he never really does anything that you could per se be wrong. He just does things in a different way from what the Phantom Thieves typically will do, and that's a very different situation from what Akira does. You can like him, but you can still agree that a lot of the stuff that he does is pretty messed up, and a lot of the stuff is just blows my mind that he just thought that it was okay for all the things that he did. It's a really interesting aspect of it, and I really like the kind of stuff. However, at the same time, there are some aspects that I feel like were kind of pretty poor written. For example, the whole underlayer message of like phone usage and using the phone less because it disconnects and all this. I mean, I don't really see why they had to do that kind of stuff, or like how people were slaves to their phone and everything, or like the AI because of their phone or whatever. It's just a really, I don't know. I don't think it needed to be there particularly, and I do feel like although he did kind of use the phone situation, it was more like they were being mind controlled rather than actually the phones or the AI or anything like that. Anyway, that is pretty much in this video here. I thought it was an interesting character to be written, and I do appreciate this kind of villains because it does open a discussion, and it does open kind of like this situation where people can agree or disagree with the character, or like see all the different ways that they could have approached certain things. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think about this? Do you like this character? Do you not like this character? Did you think he was a good villain or antagonist? I think he was a great antagonist, but I don't think he was what I wanted for Persona 5 Strikers. I really wish they had chosen a different route for this one, but it's okay. It's still a pretty fun game, and I still enjoyed it. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. Please consider liking and subscribing, and I'll see you guys next time.